And I'll introduce John for us real quick. So Dr. John, the power of opening your mouth. Kristi Oakey is probably the best in the whole company at cold recruiting. But Kristi Oakey met John and his wife on a plane and literally brought this business into their life. They were very skeptical. I'll let John tell the story of how he overcome his skepticism, but since that time frame, they have become unbelievable. John, in my opinion, I watched him present in Omaha what he's about to do, as knowledgeable as anybody in our company of what it really takes to lose weight and keep a healthy body. So, John, Dr. John, we thank you for being here and we turn it over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen here. So what we're going to talk about this morning is food noise, and I'm really excited that we're here, that you've invited me. Being a family physician who was traditional family medicine, I do something a little different. I do what's called direct primary care. So my patients pay me a monthly membership, so it gives me a little different platform that I can talk about this. As Todd said, I had no interest in supplements. I wasn't trained on them. I had no nutrition classes when I was in medical school. So when Kristi and approached us, I mean, we were on a shuttle bus at 5 in the morning. The last thing I wanted to do was listen to Kristi talk about supplements. But unfortunately, or fortunately, my wife did. And we decided we were going to give the drops a shot. So we did 3 months for me, 3 months for my wife, and 3 months for our two nurses. And one nurse in a week said, I'm sleeping better. Myself, I lost 40 pounds in 13 weeks. Janet's lost weight. Wendy lost weight. So it led us down this path to where I've become a true believer now of maybe we're doing preventative medicine instead of reactive medicine, which is typically what we're doing. So we'll move forward here. We'll kind of go through this fairly quickly since we're a little shorter on time. So who I am, I'm a board certified family physician. I'm a product of the product. I'm also on the Wellness Council, which I think is an honor to be on. So what is food noise? So food noise is this constant intrusive thoughts about food. It's not that you're hungry, it's not that you're craving, but you just can't get food out of your mind. You can't get the concept of, well, this is good for me, this is bad for me. You know, when are we going to eat? What am I going to eat? I've kind of always had the idea that if we didn't have watches, we wouldn't be eating 3 meals a day because we wouldn't look at our watch and say, oh, well, it's 12 o'clock, we need to go eat lunch. But this is even above and beyond that. It's these persistent thoughts. It's not normal hunger cues. It's repetitive. Some people call it mental chatter. Some people call it head hunger. But it's just we cannot get through the idea or through the out of the thought process of this kind of dog chasing its tail mentality. I've got a little video here that we're going to play for you, and then I'll get back on.
And Stephanie, you have to unmute yourself so we can hear the audio.
Let's try this again.
Perfect.
Okay, share screen.
Do I need to
I
stop
can't take
sharing?
this anymore.
Okay.
Soda again? Ugh, I'm sick of this. Rain, pick up. I can't handle this overload.
Hello? What's going on down there?
Can't you see? I'm about to explode. Too many burgers, fries, soda. We're already gaining weight.
Don't blame me. I've been sending signals to stop, but she just keeps eating.
And tell her again. I can't breathe in here.
I don't know what else to do. The cravings don't even come from me. I'm losing control.
Doctor, I keep eating. I know I've gained weight, but I just can't stop. Burgers, fries, soda. It's nonstop cravings.
Your body is taking in way more calories than it can burn. The fat is starting to crush your organs. If you don't slow down, it could seriously harm you. I'm putting you on a diet now.
Thank you. So can everybody hear me, Sarah?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, but you'll have to reshare your screen now.
Dude.
And while you're getting that pulled up, everyone is asking for that video there. I will put the link to that in chat for you guys. Oh, Stephanie did it for me. Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not very tech savvy, so. Well, I'm not sure why it won't let me share. Stop share. Try this again.
Try clicking on one of the slides on the left-hand side. Looks like
Yeah,
maybe
but-
the app itself has crashed.
Well, let me.
Any
Reload.
moderators good with Keynote have any suggestions here?
I'll try getting out of Keynote and try to get back into it, John.
Well, as I told him earlier, this was my fear that we would do this and then it wouldn't work, or I would have issues.
There we go.
Okay. So, sorry about that. So when we think about food noise, there's really external, there's internal. Internal is this intrusive thoughts in our brain of constantly wrestling with ourselves. Should we order pizza? Should we have salmon? My friend's having a salad. I want burger and fries. What should we do? And then you have the external, which is advertising, social media, the diet culture, the well-meaning family member that weighs 100 pounds but brings the most calorie dense dessert and knows that you're trying to lose weight, but just says, well, you can have a little piece. A little piece won't hurt you. How your brain and your body drive these food thoughts. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I was getting a phone call. So hyperpalpable foods. We talk about ultra processed foods in Partner Co. That's hyperpalatable foods. What they do is they overstimulate the dopamine pathway. The dopamine pathway is the feel-good pathway. So that's the pathway that if you do drugs, if you smoke, if you drink alcohol, if you eat these hyperpalpable foods, get immediately turned to sugar. That sugar spikes and our brain likes that feeling. What it does, though, it disrupts our hunger and satiety hormones, the ghrelin and leptin. So they're sending mixed signals to the brain of, well, am I hungry or am I full? So neither one of them shut off. And so we continue to eat. These ultra processed foods highlight our appetite regulation to where we lose control. And as in that little video clip, that's really what was happening to that lady is she wasn't able to control those things because of the food that she was eating. There's the environmental causes or the world around us, the constant advertising, food marketing, this is healthy, fat-free, sugar-free, no sugar added, protein, 100-calorie packs, all those kind of things that make you think, oh, well, this is good for me. The smell, the sounds, when you go into places, you go to a movie theater, what do you smell? You smell popcorn. Why do you smell that? That stimulates you. You go to a restaurant and they provide you biscuits and butter, apple butter before. Why are they doing that? They stimulate you to eat that, which then causes your insulin or your sugar to go up, your insulin to spike, drops your blood sugar into what we call hypoglycemia, and then you crave food, so you order more. It's a marketing ploy that we don't understand. Then there's this psychological, so our emotions. And one of the first things I ask my customers is, why do you eat the way you eat? Personally, I know I'm a stress eater and I'm a boredom eater. So if I'm under stress, I'm looking for something to snack on. Janet and I can have dinner. I can sit down in my chair in the evening to read a book or watch TV. And immediately I think about, oh, I wonder what we have in the pantry we could snack on. So you've got this stress, anxiety, the boredom, and all that then starts to lead to guilt and shame and, what can I do to change? And then we get into this loop where now we're releasing cortisol, which is increasing our stress, which is then making us more hungry. So we're like a dog chasing its tail. And then what you learn when you grew up. I grew up, my mom, we were a meat and potatoes family. My mom was a full-blooded Czech, so we had always had fresh bread. We had cinnamon rolls, those kind of things. So those habits that you develop when you're young. You go to college and you have a beer and a pizza at 11 o'clock when you're studying. Once you get out of college, it's hard to break that habit because that's what you've learned that behavior. And then when you throw on top of it these ultra processed foods that stimulate our blood sugar quickly, then that just magnifies the problem for us. So what are the outcomes? Well, you get mental fatigue because you're always worried, you're always thinking about food. You get stress and guilt. Is this a good food? Is it a bad food? Should I have this? Should I have that? Is this healthy for me? Is that not? It makes it harder to stick to a healthy plan, to think about whole foods because everybody's busy, everybody's stressed. It's easier just to run into a quick shop and get a Coke and a hot dog versus grilling some chicken on Sunday and making your meals throughout the week. But the bigger picture is this health impact. And Dr. Strand talks about this a lot. Everybody in medicine talks about this. It's that metabolic syndrome. We know now, though, that these repetitive sugar spikes also lead to brain fog, lead to depression, lead to anxiety, lead to bloating, lead to IBS type symptoms where you have diarrhea, constipation, the metabolic distress, but ultimately leads to developing diabetes, heart disease, heart attack, stroke, visual changes, peripheral neuropathy, those kind of things. So when did obesity become an epidemic? And really, I think this is a key as we look back, kind of where we came from. So back in the 80s and 90s is when we really started to see obesity take a huge jump. And what happened in the 80s and 90s? That's really when ultra processed foods came to the forefront. And what drove ultra processed foods to the forefront? And a lot of people don't know this, but in the late 70s, when cigarette companies were banned from advertising tobacco on TV, they went out and bought food companies. They took their scientists that were trying to get people addicted to nicotine and they moved them over into the food industry. So it led to a tripling of our obesity rate since 1960. 4 in 10 adults meets the criteria for obesity, 10% severe obesity. Over 21% of children 2 to 19 are considered obese, but if you look at the Hispanic and African American population, it's upwards of 30%. So why did this really matter? Well, the first thing is that ultra processed food availability. Kind of what I call, and when I was doing research for this, a lot of people they call it addictive science. And that's what this tobacco industry brought to the food industry was addictive science. So how can we get people addicted to the foods that they're eating? Portion sizes. When McDonald's started, the kids' meal was the actual adult meal. Now where everybody's supersized. There were competitions with Burger King and McDonald's and all the different fast foods of who could sell the biggest burger or biggest junk food for the cheapest price. And as Americans, we like a good deal. So we all jumped in and started buying those. Sugar sweetened beverages. I believe if you look at the history of Gatorade, Gatorade was water, sugar, potassium, and salt when it was developed. I think now it has like 14 ingredients. including artificial sweeteners along with sugar and other chemicals. Our work style, our lifestyles changed. We became more mechanized. 30 years ago, people weren't sitting in front of a computer like we are today. And then the marketing. At that time, insulin resistance kind of became a thing. People talked about it, but it was kind of in the periphery of medicine. But that's kind of when the first idea of insulin resistance became something that people started to talk about. What's the impact of ultra processed foods? It's about 500 calories a day. So when you eat ultra processed foods versus eating whole foods, 500 calories a day times 7 days is 3,500 calories. 1 pound of fat has 3,500 calories. So if you eat 500 calories extra a day, you're going to gain a pound a week. And that seems like a lot, 50 pounds a year. But I can tell you, I've had patients over the years that have consistently gained 10 to 20 pounds a year that have gone from being healthy to being morbidly obese in 5 years. And so that's where we're at today, and that's kind of where we've come from. We've all seen this slide from Dr. Strand. We eat a high glycemic meal, that sugar spikes, our insulin follows it up, drops our blood sugar down. When it drops below the black dotted line, that's what's called functional hypoglycemia. That's when our brain starts to release stress hormones. The cortisol, ghrelin, adrenaline, glucagon, all of those stimulate our appetite to go eat. If you think about your Thanksgiving dinner, you have some mashed potatoes, that's going to spike your blood sugar. You have turkey, probably the healthiest thing you're going to eat all day. You have stuffing, which is all bread, it's going to spike your blood sugar. Corn's going to spike your blood sugar. My mom would take a sweet potato. It wasn't sweet enough, so she put a marshmallow and brown sugar on it, so it would spike your blood sugar. And then you have a piece of grandma's pumpkin pie. And what do you want to do a half hour later? You want to go take a nap. That's where our blood sugars drop below. We take our 30-minute nap and we wake up. Where do we go? We go back to the food because of those stress hormones that our brain has released. So what does sugar do to hormones? Well, we know it increases our insulin. Insulin's a storage hormone. So insulin is going to try to put that sugar somewhere. The idea is it's going to drive it into the muscles so we can burn that up. But if we're eating excessive calories, excessive amounts of sugar, it starts putting it into fat around our belly and visceral inside around our organs. Increase our cortisol level. Cortisol level increases stress. That also increases, again, starts that cycle of promoting us to go back and eat. It throws the signal of ghrelin and leptin off to where they don't shut off like they're supposed to. So our brain gets confused and continues to eat. It messes with our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome, we're learning more and more, is really the center of our immune system. And it all starts there. So if it messes with your gut microbiome, now you develop bloating, diarrhea, constipation, simply because of our diet, not because of anything functionally wrong with you. It disrupts our sex hormones, our thyroid hormones. We start gaining weight, we have the cravings, and then we ultimately have the metabolic dysfunction. So where do the drops fit into this? We've all seen this slide. Homeopathic formula, slenderized, 11 ingredients, 7 of them help with stabilizing our blood sugars, help with digestion, help our liver process, help with insulin sensitivity, and then there's the 4 ingredients that help with cravings. And then we've got accelerate, which is the B12. So if we look at Slenderize a little more detail, there are the 4 things that really, we promote, that assist in weight management, supports digestive health. If you look at the Materia Medica catalog, which is the Bible for functional and herbologist, it really tells what each of those 11 ingredients do. Everybody can read that. It's in the Partner Co. Materials. Here's the hormones. So ghrelin, leptin, again, we've talked about those: hunger, fullness, satiety hormones, cortisol. We start to balance those. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to reduce our cravings. We're starting to reduce the stress. So our body now starts to take the food that we're eating and actually utilizes it. The idea being that now we're eating better. We're eating whole foods. We're not still eating the junk food. As we all know, if you can take the drops, if you don't change your eating habits, you continue to eat ultra processed foods, you continue to drink alcohol, soda, the drops aren't going to really help you any. And Dr. Strand's studies showed that the drops would help double your weight loss if you followed the program. Accelerate, to me, this is the magic. The fact that the Accelerate helps boost our energy, helps boost our metabolic rate, helps stabilize our mood, and helps us adapt to stress. In my clinic, we have probably 70% of the people that we check, their B12 is in the lower quadrant of normal. What do they have when they have low B12? They're tired. They can get peripheral neuropathy, tingling in their fingers. They get brain fog. They get depression. So by boosting their B12, we give them more energy. We help with their focus. We give them better mood. It helps within the cells because B12 is used as a cofactor in development of other products within the cells for energy. Contains biotin. Everybody, biotin's been the big thing. Well, for my hair and my nails, I have patients say, oh, I take biotin because I want to improve my hair and strengthen my nails. People don't understand biotin is a cofactor as well. So it's necessary to form glucose. It's necessary to form for fatty acids. It promotes cellular function. All of this is at the cellular level, not outside. It's down to the cellular level. And then it helps turn food into energy. So it's very important. But to me, this is the secret sauce of the drops, the adaptogens. I've never had anybody in my 20 plus years of being a physician who wanted to make a lifestyle change that did not go through a bout of depression or a bout of anxiety. Because if we're making a lifestyle change, and I don't care whether we're obese, we're addicted to food, whether we're a smoker, we're addicted to nicotine, whether we're an alcoholic, we're addicted to alcohol. When you go to make that lifestyle change, you are giving up your friend. It may be that pizza at 11 o'clock. It may be that beer or 2 drinks after work. Whatever it is, we're giving that up, and that stresses us out. And it's hard for our mind to deal with those alone. And, Dr. Strand talks about willpower in a bottle. That's really, I think, is what this helps us, what these adaptogens help us with. So I really focus on the adaptogens when I'm talking to my customers because I've been through it myself. I've lost 75 pounds since I started this program. And trust me, there are days I went through bouts of depression, and there are days that, if I don't take the drops, that I think my nurses would wish me I do take the drops. Again, different organ systems, different organs that the drops help regulate, from the brain to the fat cells to our digestive system. Again, this is in the partner co-material. So if we go back to our food noise, the mental fatigue, that constant drain of thinking about foods, how do the drops help? Well, they help balance our blood sugars. They help with insulin sensitivity. So they reduce our cravings and they give us better focus. When it comes to the stress and guilt, the adaptogens, again, that's the secret sauce in my mind. They help us work through that. They help us stay calm. I always think of the person that tells me, well, I've quit smoking 15 times over my lifetime. And well, what makes you go back to smoking? Well, after about a week, my wife tells me to go buy a pack of cigarettes because I become a butthead. Well, they needed the adaptogens to help them work through that. And that's really what the drops help us do. If you're eating whole foods, there's no judgment. You don't have to worry or beat yourself up about, is this healthy? Is it not healthy? And then you start to lose inches and you start to lose pounds. And now all of a sudden you've got this positive reinforcement on what you're doing is actually working. The weight management, the cravings, it's hard to stick to a good program, willpower in a bottle, doubling the weight loss. But again, it's overall health impact. And I'm like Dr. Strand. I was trained that we do preventative medicine, but by the time we figure out you've got high blood sugar, you've got high cholesterol, you've got diabetes, we haven't prevented anything. Now we're reactive medicine. And so the drops allow people to be proactive and try to not only stop things before they get to that point, but if they do have it, they help people reduce that. And I can tell you from my own story, I've dropped my A1C, I've dropped my cardiac CRP, which is marked for inflammation, from very high back to the low normal range or to the low risk range. So those are the kind of things that the drops help do that most people don't talk about, but the things that I really try to share with our customers and our brand partners. So again, we're back to this. It's that sugar or our blood sugar dropping below that baseline that really is the trigger. And that's what kind of gets the ball rolling. We all have seen this slide, insulin resistance leads to diabetes. It kind of correlates a little bit, but I just put it in there just to kind of reinforce what we've been talking about. Other than food, what causes glucose spikes? Well, stress. I can tell you, I wear a glucose monitor, and when I realized I needed to change my slide deck after I saw the brochure or the flyer that came out, my blood sugar spiked about 60 points, just simply from stress. Poor sleep. If we're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night instead of that 7 to 8 hours, if we've got some sleep apnea to where we're not sleeping, a lot of times hunger masks itself as dehydration. So we get hungry, our body's going to start releasing sugar, which can cause a spike. But if we drink water or we drink max H2O with our water, now all of a sudden our hydration is better and our appetite or our cravings go away. If you're sick, if you take certain medicines, like if I give somebody a steroid, it's going to spike their blood sugar. Artificial sweeteners don't directly raise your blood sugar. It's the secondary effect of what it does to the insulin production. Caffeine, allergic reactions, and then of course the fight or flight, which is just the day-to-day stress that we have. Most of us are in a state of fight or flight, even whether we recognize it or not. So all of those things can affect our blood sugar and cause spikes. So how can I check my blood sugar? How do I know what my blood sugar is? There's really 4 ways. If you know a diabetic that pokes their finger, puts a little slide there, puts that into a glucometer, it gives them their reading. You can do a continuous glucose monitor where every 5 to 15 minutes it'll download it to your app. Diabetics have had, Dexcom has made one for diabetics for a number of years, but they've been cost prohibitive, $600, $700, $800. You could do a fasting blood test. So you go to your doctor, they draw your blood, and that's one point in time. So it doesn't tell you what your blood sugar was a week ago or 2 weeks ago or what it's going to be tomorrow. It's just at that point in time. And then we can do a hemoglobin A1C, which is also a blood test. That's going to tell us what our blood sugar has been for the last 90 days. So if we make changes, we don't want to check that hemoglobin A1C except every 90 days. So those are really the only 4 ways you can check your blood sugars. Now there's some new technology that Apple Watch is trying to get to where they can supposedly check it through the backside of your Apple Watch. That technology is not caught up yet with where we need to be. So when I talk about glucometers, there are 2 that I have used, and that are 2 that they're both of them around $100 a month. The Stello, I think, is 14 days. There's 2 monitors. The Lingo, which is the next one, is 15 days, and there's 2 in a box. If you look at the left-hand side, the picture in the green area, that's the person's blood sugar. Typically, the green area is 70 to 140. That's kind of the healthy range. The meter on the right, or the device, that's about the size of it. You put it kind of in an area where it's not going to get brushed, so I typically put mine behind my arm. I do recommend you can go on Amazon and buy these little covers. I've had one where I actually came out of a door and I caught it and I pulled it and I bent the needle and then it quit working. Both of these companies, I've had issues, periodically. The one where the needle came out was my fault, but they replaced it. Lingo, this is theirs. Again, both of them are apps on your phone. Every 5 to 15 minutes they update. But again, the thing that allows you to do is if you eat something, you can get immediate feedback, whether it's positive feedback or whether it's negative feedback of what that food did to your blood sugar. So the importance that I think of wearing these is now we can check our blood sugars, we can understand where they're at, and we're not going to break the bank. So in summary, food noise is caused by multiple factors, both internal, brain chatter, external, advertising, marketing. We can reduce that volume though. That's where the drops come in. The benefits of the drops, they're multifactorial. Food is a drug. You have to understand food is a drug, and you can either put a good drug in your body, or you can put a bad drug. Blood sugar spikes can be caused by other things in food. So a lot of people don't think that or realize that. And then blood sugars can be monitored now in real time without breaking the bank. So as we know, Slenderize is a for-profit program. It's not a diet. And that's one thing that I stress over and over to our customers is it has to be a lifestyle change. And as Dr. Strand always says, weight loss is great, but keeping it off is priceless. And we have some customers that are in that. I'm in that area. One of my nurses is in that area. She's lost almost 100 pounds. My wife's lost 30 pounds. So we all understand that what Dr. Strand has said in that statement is absolutely true. With that, I will end.
Guys, let's get some ones in chat for Dr. John Jacobsen, because I don't know about you guys. I learned so much today. And don't worry, this was recorded and we will have this posted up on Coach Todd Rowland's YouTube channel. And I will make sure to post it in Partner Code Nation and then also Level Up Life. Dr. John Jacobsen, thank you so much again for taking the time to train us on this today.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me.